Permanent 20% critical hit chance for the entire party, and 15% attack speed buff to the entire party. That's not clickbait. There's also more like a permanent 20% damage reduction for everyone in the group, plus constant vulnerability on enemies, so they're going to be taking 20% more damage from the team. A revolting amount of crowd control, bathing the entire field in slows, knockback, immobilizations, and more. This build actually just sprays crowd control on enemies. We're like the Oprah Winfrey of them, actually. Oh yeah, and let's not forget, we also get pets that can tank and take pressure off the team and help you contribute, so you are far from just a helpless, no DPS, non-contributing support, which is obviously a great thing. We're also bringing an AoE heal too, because why not? That's not a support build if we can't. The cherry on top is that we can spec in and get a big giant safety dome. Sounds good? Let's get into it. Support Druid. Oh man, this is a passion project. This is the love of mine because this is my personal play style, which I know is not for everyone, but this is like my real niche as a player across games. And so now it's the end of the beta and I'm closing the beta off with this build. Knowing that there's a lot of people on my channel that are healing mains or come from Final Fantasy XIV and that's really their strong background, I know that this is going to be something that a lot of them really want to see. This is what I wanted to see. I was asking about this on the subreddit earlier a few weeks ago. Yeah, this is a thing. This is really a thing. And this is what I'm hoping to go into retail with, this exact build. The entire idea of the build is simple. Support your team and enable them to wreck things in every way that you possibly can. And everything that I said at the start is very true. And with that said, let's get into the skills. First up, we're going to be picking up Wind Shear as our basic ability. This ability gets 3 points. Firstly, we want to be using it for applying vulnerability. Since it passes through targets, this is very easy to apply, but we also want the extra spear generation so that we can spam our next skill, Tornado, because frankly, Tornado does do a lot for us. Now we double down by going into Tornado. This is where I've also put in a ton of points as a dump just to give it a bit more kick, because being a support's one thing, but you totally don't want to be helpless. And as you can see in the footage, thankfully we're not. Tornado is also going to slow enemies and it can apply vulnerability due to a passive that we get later in the trees. These two skills combined makes applying slows and vulnerabilities to entire packs trivial. Like I was saying at the start, you're spraying it on the enemies. Now for defensive, we want 2. Firstly, Cyclone Armor, and we're going to be going all the way to that 30% damage reduction bonus every 10 seconds. It's very, very powerful, even though it's very brief, just because it's so consistently there that ramps up. Second up, we're going to be taking Blood Howl all the way to the 3rd node for the plus 15 attack speed. Let me note really quickly here that that middle node for Blood Howl is absolutely essential, and so you couldn't just do this build if you only had 1 point in it. This second one facilitates basically everything. But also remember, Blood Howl also gives you a heal, so you can heal the entire party. I need to do more research into it. If you slot in more plus HP on your own character, I don't know if the 20% you heal others for scales, but if you look at the werewolves, when I'm using this ability in any of the footage, you can see these dudes, all of them are being healed. You bring an AoE heal to the party. We're also using a legendary that gives us a 20% critical hit chance to the entire group at the same time. So this one button is very, very important. There are a lot of things enabled by particular builds by more critical hit chance, and this is something that you're just giving people, and so that is very powerful. Is it necessarily more powerful than what the Necromancer and Sorcerer can bring, just face rolling and clearing a room? Not necessarily, but if you want to do a support and you want to support a Necromancer on your team or Sorcerer, this is definitely a way to do it. These two buffs are really carrying the support build to say the least, and you're spreading them across the entire party, including your companions. These are like the Giga Chad of support options combined. Now for companions, we're still going into wolves because those are going to scale with your buffs and provide even more damage, and even more than that, they are big giant targets that take pressure off your team. They don't directly taunt, but they can 100% help take the brunt of punishment, which means others in the team can do what they do more confidently. Now we have 3 choices for our final ability, which is going to be Vine Creeper, great low cooldown, immobilization is strong, passive is decent, Petrify is another which is very strong cooldown, but the cooldown is very, very, very long, but very strong ability. And lastly, Hurricane, because it just bathes the area around you and even more slows and vulns, even though really you shouldn't need any more than Tornado and Wind Shear. Speaking from experience, like, you have more than enough, but really here it's your choice depending on the situation. Now the final point dump is going to be Elemental Exposure, 3 points here, which makes any storm storm skill have a 20% chance to make enemies vulnerable with the amount of tornadoes, their own slows, vulns, the rest. You're constantly spraying entire waves of enemies with vulnerability. Let's talk about legendary effects, and this was a bit rough to get in the beta, but I got it. So the core legendary, this won't work without it, is Blood Howl increases critical strike chance by 18% or 20, and Blood Howl affects now all nearby players and companions. This is Kingpin. If you don't have it, this build won't work. Absolutely vital, you want a two-handed weapon that doubles the bonus of this. Obviously you can put it on something else and just get the spread, but the critical hit chance, which is so valuable, you really want this. So now Blood Howl is going to be a small AoE heal for the group. It's going to be plus attack speed, plus critical hit chance is really, really good. Now what that makes this tie together is because the 3 seconds is bad, but like I was saying earlier, Blood Howls depend on that second node in the tree to work, and since we get that, it's really great. We're going to be using it quite a bit. Now the second big legendary to make the support build work is Cyclone Armor. Also now provides physical damage reduction. In addition, Cyclone Armor will also be applied to all nearby allies. So this is really where you're getting damage reduction for the entire party from, because Cyclone Armor out of the box doesn't give physical damage reduction. From there you can see the effect of my Werewolf Companions, which leads me to my next legendaries. Get the legendaries that gives you Werewolf Companions, and then the other one that gives you one extra companion. I put the one on my amulet if I had more resources, because that's so important. Since you're buffing everyone up, this scales hard. For other legendaries, you slap on the legendary to extend the duration of crowd control effects. Plus 20% duration is very nice and really makes abilities like Petrification crazy, but slows, just extending the duration of them is crazy. Now the next legendary is also very important, is Tornado seeks out 5 targets. This is essential because Tornado is horrifically, tragically, mind-blowingly bad at aiming. It's not good without this. Then take another legendary that puts on a big ol' shiny bubble when you take damage that makes you and the team in the bubble immune, which is pretty great. Let your Sork blast in confidence. The last legendaries I struggled to get in the beta, but was things like distant enemies can now be stunned when they try and hit you. This is just another CC, and so why not? Or you can go a legendary that spreads crowd control effects on other enemies. It's really just more CC layering it up, and obviously this is going to scale really well because you're giving everyone, including yourself, that crit bonus. So yeah, with that, I'm going to be closing off this video, and this is the final video of a build that I have for beta. I'm satisfied. I am satisfied. I got my support druid. I am going to be doing a lot of team play, and so this is very much a positive for me. I know a lot of people just want to solo with it, and obviously you saw footage of me soloing with it because not all my friends are playing the beta, so I'm happy. I'm really actually quite happy, to say the least. And yeah, I hope that everyone else enjoys this. I know, given the channel and the people here, that there's going to be at least a bunch of you that are very excited for this. I know that I was asking this question a week ago, and you know what? I got my answer. A build that can buff allies' damage in multiple ways, give them a heal, reduce the damage they take, help crowd control enemies, and increase the damage enemies take. This build is my fantasy. This build is my thing. And I hope that every one of you is going to enjoy this, because to me, this is just such a treat, and I am so happy this exists in game. Druid may not be the Necromancer, and Druid may not be the Sorcerer, but you know what? This is going to be a blast.